Hey guys, welcome back to another Lore Olympus video. I am Dazzling Kate, and today we will be talking about Thanatos and everything having to do with his character as well as his relationship with Hades, his connection with Minthe, or, relationship, bed buddies, relationship with Minthe. And how exactly do all of this make sense? Like, how does it make sense with his character? Because for the longest time after learning that Hades raised Thanatos, it really seems odd that we have this going on for his character. Like, what the hell? How did this happen? Why is he like this? There's a lot of pieces of information we need to get into. So grab your drinks, grab your popcorn. This might be a very long video. Okay, so let's start off with the basics. So Thanatos was raised by Hades, which was revealed in the later 170 something episode during the court scene where he does tell Hades that he gives Persephone special treatment. And Hades is like, "Well, she beat me in a chess game." Oh, okay. God, like, and I know that Poseidon and Zeus were like, "Yeah, dude, it's totally fine. She beat you fair and square. She gets the job." And it's just like, okay, this is really off to an odd start. But e- even though she got the job, even though she got the job, the way that Hades handles his situation with Persephone, which, yeah, Thanatos might not know what happened every single you know thing that happened between Hades and Persephone. He knows there's a significant amount of something going on with their relationship, and that it seems very suspicious that she seems to give off these, like, sugar baby, sugar daddy vibes situation. So I can understand where Thanatos is coming from. And I know some people might be like, but Thanatos isn't even that better because of, his relationship with Minthe and, what's her face? I forgot what her friend's name was. I don't care. But the way that it's handled in this case, it's just really odd to me that you have someone who, is legit concerned. And especially in this case, he's kind of naive in that sense where it's like he kind of believes what Menthe says. And I'm not saying he can't, do things on purpose of, fucking himself over. I'm not saying that at all. But there has been, group situations where peer pressure and, you know, toxic talking does get people into trouble. And again, I'm not trying to say he is, defended from everything. I'm just saying it's kind of odd that a lot of people seem to think he's just as bad as, you know, Minthe and her friend. And let me just be real, Minthe is more developed than Persephone, and it shows in the series. And Thanatos has the chance to be just as developed. It's just that Rachel chooses not to do so. Oh my freaking goodness, guys. I am sorry about that. My dogs are in the background and they just heard noise, and yeah, sorry about that. But okay. So he is correct that Persephone Persephone had special treatment. And Hades did a lot of things for her. And some things that, Thanatos might not know that he did. Anyways, he helped her set up a bank account. Like, who does that? Kate could have done that. And then, the whole thing with, like, them getting closer and closer to what seems to be, dating in some ways, flirting, that kind of thing. And it seems inappropriate for the workplace. And I know that Menthe is dating Hades, but they at least, in some ways, like, in some scenes, I'm not saying all the scenes, like, in a handful of scenes, they have been flirty and such, but not as much as Hades and Persephone has been, and I know, we don't know everything prior to Persephone era. I'm not, I'm not gonna look into that, but and plus, I get it. People are gonna bring that up, and I get it. And it's kind of odd with like all these different plot holes and all these pieces of information that seem to go past Rachel, and one of them being that Thanatos was raised by Hades, who, if he was raised by Hades, wouldn't he have done more to like make sure that Thanatos took his job seriously? And, if Thanatos really, you know, like not liked love Hades as a father figure. He looks up to him like a father figure. Why didn't he try doing things to grab his attention that wasn't sleeping with Menthe? And that is something I do need to talk about as well. And it kind of seems like a huge situation. Like Hades wants kids, and maybe he realized it at a later point before, before he got like Thanatos. He probably didn't want kids, and then getting Thanatos, he was like, "Yeah, I still don't want kids." But he tried, and it just seems really odd that it didn't have that much of an effect on him. Like he still is a lazy, annoying, like lazy type of character, and he's annoying to some extent when he's hanging out with the Menthe and her friend, and it shows that the toxicity of that friend group is a no go for either of them, considering that it's just not working well for them all. Okay, what else to say? Oh gosh. Mm, okay, what was I about to say? Sorry about that, guys. I'm just like kind of lost. Okay. The whole thing with Hades and Thanatos, it's just really odd to me that that, that at some point they just didn't really care enough. Like, Hades being a parental figure of sorts, he could have handed Thanatos to someone else. Like, you know, he could have probably been like, "Hey, Kate, you take him," or whoever else you could have he could have given him to someone else. Like, let's be real, he would have probably thrown him at Poseidon or Zeus and just say, "Hey, yeah, you got kids already, you take them." So why did that Hades keep Thanatos if he didn't care about him? And I know some people are forced to take in kids at sometimes, and they don't like the kid, and that's understandable. And then the kid shows attitude. It's understandable why the two couldn't get along, but it just seems really a weird that they were close to each other like that for whomever how many years before. It's kind of odd that they didn't seem to care about one another, and it's especially considering that Hades goes to have brunch with Poseidon and Zeus, and they all don't get along, and then it's just the strange thing about this. It's just why have like these two, like Thanatos and Hades, like why aren't they that close? Even though Hades raised him, there should be some traits of what he put into him, like a good work consistency or like something else. I don't know, but it seems to really not make sense to me that Hades did his best for this character, but it doesn't show. I guess maybe once Thanatos could take care of himself, Hades just kind of left it there and to just wander around. Now, as for Thanatos' relationship with Menthe, let's talk about that. We don't know how long they've been dating, or at least I don't know because I probably didn't pay much attention to some chapters, if that makes sense to you guys. But there's no context as to how Menthe and Thanatos started dating. They didn't, or sleeping around and stuff. And it's kind of odd that, like, Thanatos wasn't thinking when getting into a relationship of sorts with Minthe. It feels out of place to be dating your father's girlfriend. It's kind of freaking weird. Who initiated it? Was it Minthe? Was it Thanatos? I'm having a feeling that it might have been Minthe, but it doesn't add up to me because of how hard these, like, maybe I didn't read every piece of information there, but it doesn't add up as to who started it, why it went on, and who could have, like, what could have explained it a little better than a relationship. I really think they probably should have kept, like, their relationship to something that would have been more on Thanatos being persuaded. Because, okay, sit down, guys. Thanatos is, god of the dead, like, or, at least, like, why do I have to, like, Google check this stuff? Because my mind's just like, wait, what if I'm saying it wrong? Like, the name, and then I was like, okay, he's the personification of death, and, he appears to humans and carries them off to the underworld. So it's kind of odd that you have someone like Thanatos, who's, in the underworld. Think about this. You would think he would have much more power in the underworld, that he would have much more, you know, more of this being of, like, nobody wants to get with him because, he's the personification of death. Nobody wants to be his friend. Nobody wants to be his lover because of this reason. And, he definitely would reek of death, and that's the main reason why he can't get into a relationship. So that kind of makes me think, okay, he definitely would have been the one to not start anything, because he probably figured, yeah, I'm not that liked that much, so I'm not gonna bother trying. I'm gonna focus on my job. And then, Menthe comes in, and I think that's where the problem arises with the lack of what he does. That's at least my guess on why kind of stoops and doesn't do much work. He just kind of gets with Menthe every now and then, and because he likes the attention in that sort of sense. That's the only thing I kind of think about as to why he continued the relationship, because he figured nobody really liked him, because, again, he's the god of, the dead. He's, well, not like Hades, but you get what I mean. You get what I mean. Oh my god. But yeah, that's my main guess as to why not a lot of people had a relationship with him. And it seems very odd that, Rachel isn't going to touch on, you know, Thanatos dating one of Hades' daughters in the nearby future. It kind of feels so forced to have Thanatos date Daphne. And I'm not saying she isn't good for him. She made him wake up from, whatever Menthe was putting into his head. But it just seems very off that you have this character and he can, you know, he doesn't. You have this character like Daphne, and what went on with her and their conversation in 216 or 217? I think it was 217. It's around that time, like episode whatever, where, she forces Hades and Thanatos to confront each other. And let's talk about the argument between Hades and Thanatos after, Hades discovered Thanatos was more involved and, wanted wanted to talk straight, face to face to him, and how that went. Nothing's really going around in there. It's just kind of like, man, the argument. felt so last minute. It should have been one of those moments before the trial or something. I don't know. It should have been something that would have been a talk they should have had a long time ago. Let's be real. It should have taken place many, many chapters ago, because it doesn't add up. It doesn't really do much other than to. I mean, I get it. It's supposed to plant the seed of Thanatos being banished as well. He goes to Mount Olympus, gets banished from Zeus, back to the mortal realm with the nymphs and such. But it just, honestly, he could have tried to do something after the trial, and I think the argument, him confronting him about what happened with Persephone and such, them having that talk, and Hades dismisses it, and maybe one final time after the trial, after realizing Thanatos fucked up. Thanatos tries to talk to Hades, but Hades is like filled with rage, doesn't want to talk to him, and dismisses him. That probably would have been a much more better way, other than having both that argument revolving around Persephone. And I know it sounds like two different arguments, and I get it, but I feel like with what Thanatos should have really done in this case is try to apologize, because in any case, it doesn't seem like he wanted to, see him Hades happy. And I'm not trying to defend Hades, hell no, but I think for character development, Thanatos should have really been a better character to, think, okay, I fucked up. Yes, I was, trying to protect you. That would have made it more sentimental to the situation, instead of just being seen as, the douchebag son that nobody likes. That's the vibes that I think Rachel's trying to give him, and that's the vibe she's going to stick with. And so, later on, when Daphne, who, thinks Thanatos' health is like very, very important, but then decides to force the two to talk to each other, she's like, "Oh, come in," even though he was banished by Hades. That's the thing. I don't like how she's just like, when they first meant to, take care of yourself, make sure deal with what's in your head, and try and level yourself out, instead of trying to do what Minthe is saying or anyone else is saying. You should be your own person, that kind of thing. And then proceeds to tell him, "We'll get over it, blah blah blah." And well, what if Thanatos did that to her with, "Oh well, get over the whole Apollo thing, it was just one time, I'm gonna invite him in"? Like, would would that have been a good thing? Hell no, he wouldn't have done that. But then, Daphne proceeds to let Hades and Hykate in, and the rest is history. And I know they make up, but it feels like it's a forced makeup. It that's not gonna undo 10 years of trauma there. That's not gonna undo. It's not gonna undo anything. It, of course, of course, of course not. Of course not. Because Thanatos is his like mental health. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Any other character aside from Persephone or Hades does not matter. They can all they don't need to have any attention in that department. It's just all about Persephone. Oh goodness. And honestly, I really wish they had developed Thanatos into a better character, because again, remember, he's supposed to be one of the biggest figures in the underworld, but he's treated as this annoying type. And he is one of my favorites because of the potential he has. But instead, Rachel just makes him this annoying douchebag son who, has daddy issues, but then it never gets resolved for his mental health or anything else of the sorts. Hades doesn't actually take the time to understand what he's caused Thanatos to begin with. And it just sits there. It sits there with no resolution. It's just kind of forced. So they have to force each other to get straight to it. It doesn't it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. And what's unfortunate about this is, we don't get that much development between Hades and Thanatos. Like, could they have mentioned that Thanatos was raised by Hades from the beginning? Oh no, that would have been, way bad if we'd done that. Oh no, that would have been too distracting. We need more romance with Persephone and Hades. Even though Thanatos and Hades, if Rachel, I feel like Rachel made this decision of them being, Thanatos being raised by Hades at a last minute, because if she had implemented that at the very beginning for his character, it would have added more, hey, yeah, oh, that's why he's pissed, because his dad figure is being manipulated by you know, by an asshole, that kind of thing. And that's why he's so protective. Because he's always been there, even though he didn't really care in that kind of way. Does that make sense? But no, we're not given that because Rachel doesn't want to take that time to develop these characters other than Persephone and Hades, and even them, they don't have that much development, and they're just kind of lacking in that department. But yeah, Thanatos was right all along. Persephone, she got what she wanted every step of the way, and whenever something seemed to be a very bad thing or a negative thing to her character, it was to be blamed on Eris, Hades, Demeter, Apollo, Menthe. All of that was blamed on them. She can do no wrong, even though in this entire thing, everyone just believes that she's innocent. She's just a victim of this, and it's so fucking weird. Like, can you guys believe that? We have so much missed character potential in a lot of different characters in Lore Olympus, but no, the only victim in here is Persephone. That's all. That's all Rachel wants us to know. Everyone else just, doesn't deserve that. They don't deserve to be a character. They don't deserve to have their own story arcs. It's all about Persephone and Hades' love story. Okay, that was something I really needed to get out. Anyways, guys, I know I kept jumping back and forth to different, relationships and such. And I really wish I could say more. I think the only thing I can really, like, I'm looking at different things I wrote down, but I'm also like what the hell? Okay. But yeah, I think in all of this, I think Thanatos should have really been a better character in Lore Olympus, as he is a huge figure in the underworld. I mean, if without him, they wouldn't really have all their souls. And I know Hermes helps too, but it just seems really off to me that they make Thanatos this, you know, lazy type of guy, even though he should be just as focused as Hades in some ways, because he has a lot more involvement in his job. And then to basically say that it doesn't really matter because he's the bad guy, and this is what sucks about like these characters, is that you get someone who's how like Hades, everyone was like, oh, he's the most biggest bad guy ever, even though in Greek mythology he was the most kindest to his wife Persephone. And I know the abduction of Persephone, but everything, like, they make these figures in mythology seem like huge jokes, and it's such a sad thing. I don't mind the modern setting, but if you really want to tell a good mixture of these Greek mythology, like myths, and these different elements of their stories, you have to do it in a way where it respects the material. You can add new stuff to it, go ahead. The idea of Thanatos being raised by Hades was a great element, but the idea of them not having a familial connection or like any caring element to them, it just seemed really off, or at least having some you know remote of care in either of them. And Thanatos showed that. Hades did not that much. Oh, but he put clothes on his back. He gave him a job. Yeah, anyone can do that. They can wave a fucking magic wand in that universe and give them whatever they want just to avoid the other person. Does it necessarily mean that they care about said person? No, it doesn't. It Anyways, guys, I am done for today. I went on to my ramble long enough. Do you guys enjoy Thanatos' character in Lore Olympus, or do you not? Let me know down in the comment section down below, and if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. It would mean the world to me. Anyways, stay safe, stay warm, and stay hydrated. This is Dazzling Kate, signing the hell out of here.